Hello, Heikki. Welcome to Sweden. Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
fourth edition of the Data Innovation Summit here in Stockholm. It's nice having VR Group with us again, and it's nice having you as a speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really interesting conference so far.
So please, in short, just introduce yourself, your background.
Right. So my background is in smart lighting. So I was working in a company doing lighting control systems, IoT stuff, and collecting data from the field, and then making decisions based on how customers use our luminaires. And yeah, I started at VR as a data scientist 1 year ago, and well, even though the industry is completely different, the data is always the same, and same approaches that were usable in the smart lighting can be used also in passenger traffic.
Okay, so Heikki, you presented today on the machine learning track,
Right.
predicting passenger counts in rail traffic. So can you please do like a short recap for us? What are the main technological components of it?
Sure. So we need to predict the amount of passengers to have the right amount of conductors and right amount of wagons. So what we did, we just made a very simple regression model to predict it. We used extreme gradient boosting to do the actual prediction, and kind of got the initial model to production fairly quickly, I think. And I think the main thing I hope that people can learn from my presentation is that it's very important to get your first model to production as soon as you can, because only when it's in production you can get feedback from the people who are actually using those numbers. And especially in our case, that really
It's all about that.
Yeah, and we had to make some big changes to what are we actually predicting because of the feedback we got.
Awesome. So, Heikki, when it comes to transportation industry, big data is considered a new pledge to effectively manage all of the data, the huge, massive amounts of data that this sector requires for providing safer and more efficient, of course, transport means. However, big data comes along with its own set of technological challenges. So can you please just tell us what are some of the hinders that can affect its successful implementation?
Right.
And some of the solutions.
Well, of course, first I want to say that one shouldn't do big data just because it's big and difficult, but first you need to kind of do the stuff that gives you most business value. And a lot of that stuff is not actually big data. It's, you can probably get a lot of value with much smaller data sets. And probably the same tools that are good for big data are maybe not the right tools for these smaller data sets. So probably you should also start with the kind of more tailored tools. But then at some point when you have the project which has some business value and also requires the very large data set, then you might get into troubles because your tool doesn't cut it anymore. And in that case, you need to maybe move to kind of some tools which are able to use the large data set as well.
So I have now two questions which I'll try to combine into one.
Right.
I think you can connect one to another. So what are some of the big data applications in the railway transportation? And when it comes to VR, what kind of data analytics do you perform?
Right. So I think one of the biggest data sets we have is when we are collecting GPS data from our trains and other sensors also, which are kind of sending data all the time. You can very easily get very large data set with this stuff. And of course you could use that to improve the punctuality, maybe improve how the schedules are planned for the trains. And I think it's very big part of for railway industry is to get the kind of planning correct, to kind of plan the schedules, get the pricing correct, and plan all the work shifts for all the train drivers and conductors and so on. So I think that's where you can really use these large amounts of data.
And in VR you do the same, right?
Yes, and especially in our team, we are kind of trying to support all these different divisions doing this. For example, helping some division to plan their work shifts, and then another one to do the pricing right, or maybe plan the timetables. We are kind of part of all that because I think the expertise you need for all these projects is kind of the same. So it makes sense to have it in the same team.
Okay, so Heikki, one last question. According to Forbes, machine learning and artificial intelligence, like a broader team, will be still the hottest technology trends in 2019. So when it comes to your expertise, your industry, what kind of prediction can you make for the near future? What can we expect that it will be innovative in this industry?
What can we expect from AI or machine learning in our industry? I don't think that it's going to bring that kind of big change, but instead of a lot of smaller changes. Like as I mentioned, there's all these different planning and that kind of stuff. If you are even able to make a small improvement to the planning part, you can easily save like $10 million or something like that. So I think that's where you can use AI to kind of, humans are pretty good at making all this planning and so on. But with some optimization or some machine learning models, you could maybe do a little bit better plans, and that's where you can actually save a lot of money and win the competitions and so on.
Awesome. Heikki, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure, and thanks to VR for being with us, and thanks to you for connecting this interview.
Thank you.